Alrighty, so in your notes packet, topic 6, writing equations for parallel and perpendicular lines. This is kind of a combination of topic 5 as well as what you already know about parallel and perpendicular lines and their slopes. I am a little bit sick, so if I'm sneezing in this video, I'm sorry. I'll try to sneeze away from my microphone. Okay, so it says, remember, what do you know about the slopes of parallel lines? Well, we know parallel lines, they look like this, right? Oh, sorry, my board. They never touch. So they have the same slope. Okay, exact same. If one is 4, the other is 4. If one's negative 2/3, the other is negative 2/3. What do we know about the slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines? That is seriously horrible. I'm going to redraw that. Here's parallel. Perpendicular is when they meet at a right angle, okay? And those are opposite reciprocals. Now, when I say opposite reciprocal, I'm not trying to be redundant and say the same thing twice. Both of those words has a meaning. Opposite is there because if you have to change the sign. Reciprocal is there because you have to flip it over. You have to do two things when it's a perpendicular line. And this is how can we check to see if they're perpendicular? You're going to multiply together and see if it equals -1. Okay? If when you multiply you get -1, then you've done it correctly. So let's just kind of dive right in. It says write an equation in slope-intercept form for a line passing through the point -3, 1 and perpendicular to 3y minus x equals 6. If you think back to topic 5, we gave you that flow chart. It kind of gave you a sequence you could go through when you're writing equations. We gave you that because it starts to get a little muddy in our brains, all the things we know and all the things we've learned about equations. So if I think about the flow chart, the very, very top of it wants me to find the slope first and foremost every single time. So looking at this problem, I look to see what I've been given. Okay, I've been given a point, and I've been given an equation, right? Well, do either of those give me a slope? Well, one point is not going to give me a slope, right? But an equation could give me a slope. I only get a slope whenever it is solved for y. So I'm going to do that first. I'm going to solve this so that y is by itself in slope-intercept form. Dividing by 3, so y equals 1/3 x plus 2. Okay, so again, I'm supposed to start with the slope. Well, this equation, or this problem, is wanting me to find a line that's perpendicular to that. Perpendicular means I want the slope to be the opposite reciprocal of this slope right here, okay? So my slope is going to have to be -3/1, or just -3, right? Okay, so check, I've got my slope. Then it says, do you have a point, or do you have a y-intercept, right? I've got two options. Do I have b, or do I just have a random point? Well, people always get this part confused. Right here, I have just a random point, right? But right here, I have a y-intercept, right? Well, the equation that they're wanting me to write goes through this point right here. Okay, this is the one point they've given us for that new line. This is the y-intercept of the old line that we're going to be perpendicular to. We don't know if our new line is going to go through the negative or through the +2 right there or not. Okay, so if I was to sketch a picture of this, here's a graph. This equation right here in red that I solved a second ago, y equals 1/3 x plus 2. Let's kind of sketch that out. Here's the 2, up 1/3, up 1/3. Let's say that the line kind of looks like that. I want a perpendicular line to that in green that goes through -3, 1. Well, let's say this is -3, 1 right here-ish, okay? Well, if I'm going to be perpendicular to that, like this, is it going to have a y-intercept of 2 like this one did? No, right? That doesn't make any sense. So I do not have a y-intercept for the new line that I'm supposed to be creating, okay? All I have is this slope, switch colors again, and this point right here, okay? So if I'm thinking about the flow chart, I have to take the long route because next I'm going to have to use point-slope form to figure out my total equation, okay? Let me clear up some of this room here. Erase my sketch and all this stuff. So, like I said, I know my slope is -3, and I know a random point. So y minus y1 is what I'm going to have to work with because I don't know the y-intercept of the new line. So y minus 1 equals -3 x plus 3. Okay, I got the x plus 3 because here's my x and my point, minus the negative is plus. And again, I got the -3 for my slope from the opposite reciprocal of this guy right here. Now I just work this out. Distribute my -3, add my 1, and y equals -3x minus 8. And there's my equation. Okay, a lot of work, a lot of thought processing. thinking either way, for that one problem, right? But that flow chart should really help you think about what order you should go in, what your sequence should be of thoughts. Sorry, again, sick brain. I'm not talking very well here. So number 2, write an equation in slope-intercept form for a line passing through the point 4, -8. Okay, so right there, I know that they've given me a point, right? It's not the y-intercept, parallel to 4x minus y equals -5. Okay, well, again, my flow chart always starts with slope. Well, they haven't outright given me a slope, so I need to find one from this equation. Okay, so I'm going to take this equation, solve it for y. I'm just going to rewrite it first. So I'm going to subtract 4x, so negative y equals -4x minus 5. I'm then going to multiply everything by -1, so y equals positive 4x plus 5. All right, so I know that the slope of this line is 4, but what do I want the slope of my line to be? Well, it says we want it to be parallel to this guy, okay? So again, if I was to sketch this out, the red line I just solved for is y equals 4x plus 5. Let's say this is 5, and 4 is going to be pretty steep, right? Up 4 over 1. So let's say it looks something like this. If I want it to be parallel, okay, that means I want it to have the exact same slope of 4. So my new line is going to have a slope of 4 as well, okay? Now, my flow chart says I need to then look at what I've been given and decide, do I have the y-intercept or do I just have a random point, okay? Well, again, the y-intercept of this one is 5. I do know that y-intercept. But if I'm supposed to draw a line that's parallel to this, is there any way in which, oops, it's not parallel, pretend. If that was parallel, is there any way for it to also go through the y-intercept of 5? No, right? That wouldn't be parallel, it'd just be the exact same line. So I don't have the y-intercept. I've just been given this one clue right here, which is a random point of what this line's going to go through. Okay, so I have a slope of 4 and a point of 4, -8. So once again, thinking about this flow chart, I'm going to have to take the long path. So y minus y1 equals m, x minus x1. So to plug in my point right here, -8 is the y, so it makes it plus 8. My slope was 4, x minus, let's see, my x was 4. So now I'm solving y equals 4x minus 24. There's my equation. Alrighty. Okay, so let's keep going. Number 3, write an equation in slope-intercept form of a line that passes through -2, 3, again, random point here, and is perpendicular to y equals -5. Okay, before we do anything else, your brain should have automatically thought, oh, hoy, that's a hoy. There's no x there, so it has to be a hoy. Y equals -5. So that means if it's horizontal, let's go ahead and sketch this out. Draw a graph really fast. If I have a horizontal line going through -5, that's going to look something like this. If I'm trying to come up with a line that's perpendicular, that means it's going to be a x, right? So my equation, let's do it with the x, so x equals, well, if it goes through the point -2, 3, well, the x is -2, and I'm done. Pretty straightforward. Okay, if that was a little too fast, feel free to rewind, watch again, see if you got it. I'm going to do it again, though, on number 4. Write an equation in slope-intercept form of a line that passes through 4, -2, and is parallel to y equals -7. Well, here we go again. This is a hoy, right? Y equals -7. There's no x, so that's a hoy. So let me draw a picture for us here. There's my axes. This first line is y equals -7, horizontal line going through -7. And I want a line that's parallel to it, right? So my new line is going to look something like this, right? It's parallel. It's another hoy. So my equation, I get it from the y equals a number, right? What number is that? It's just the y from the point, right? Here's x, here's y, so y equals -2. Alrighty. Number 5, write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line that passes through 1, 1 and is parallel to the line graphed on the right. Okay, so here's the line I've got. I want a line that goes through 1, 1. Instead of me sitting here and trying to be like, that looks about right, instead of me doing that, I'm going to actually use the math here, right? If I have a line given to me, and I'm thinking about this flow chart, the flow chart always starts with slope, and then it gives you 2 paths, right? You've got m, you've got a point, you've got the equation, remember this? y equals mx plus b, your standard form at the end. Okay, if I'm supposed to be getting to slope-intercept form, which is this point right here, I need to first start with my slope, work my way down. Okay, well, if I'm trying to come up with a line that's parallel, I want the same slope as this line that's already graphed. So I'm going to find two perfect points. I see one here and one here. That's a rise of 3 in front of 1. So my slope here is 3, which means that the slope of this new line is also going to be 3. Okay, so I just finished this. Check, I got the slope. Now I decide, do I have the y-intercept or do I just have a random point? Okay, well, I know the y-intercept of this line is negative, what is that, 5? But I don't know what the y-intercept is of my line, right? I can count it out, but that's not how you're supposed to do this. So I'm going to say I just have a random point. It's 1, 1. It was given to me in the problem right here. So that means I'm taking this long path over here. I've got the point. I'm going to have to use point slope form to get there. So y minus y1, this whole big guy, y minus 1 equals 3, x minus 1. I'm plugging in these numbers. Now I distribute. I'm going to add 1. 3x minus 2. Okay? I could even go check it if I wanted to. Here's negative 2. My slope of 3 would be up 3 over 1. There's that 1, 1 I was talking about. I could keep this going. You'll notice I'm never going to get closer to this line. I'm always going to be skirting right by it so that it's parallel. Okay? Number 6, which of the following describes a line passing through 3, 3 that is perpendicular to the line described by 3x minus 5y equals negative 10? Well, here's my gut reaction. 3, 3. Let me go check that. 3, 3 looks pretty good to me. Check. 3, 3 looks pretty good to me. Check. Okay, so I haven't eliminated anything, right? So let's focus on the slope here. If it's supposed to be perpendicular to this equation, I need to figure out what this slope is and find the opposite reciprocal. So let me solve for y. I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. So negative 5y equals negative 3x minus 10. Divide by negative 3. So y equals x. How did I get that? Well, right here, negative 3 over negative 3, that's just 1. Plus, because this was a negative 10 divided by a negative 3, plus 10 thirds. Okay? Now, that's kind of a yucky number, but the good news is, excuse me, hopefully that wasn't super loud. The good news is that we don't even need that y-intercept, right? We're just trying to use this equation to get a slope out. And I can see that my slope now is 1, right? Negative 3 over 3. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. Oh, wait. This is wrong. Wrong. Sorry. Let me start over. Not totally over. Just solving. When I subtracted 3x, I thought that was a 3, it's a 5. So I've got negative 5y, it's a 5 there, equals negative 3x minus 10. Okay, that's going to make a difference. So when I divide by negative 5, here we go, I get y equals 3/5 x plus 2. There we go, because it's negative 10 divided by negative 5. Okay, that makes more sense. Now, that's the equation they gave me, and they're wanting to know which one of these answer choices is perpendicular to it. Well, if it's perpendicular, I know that my slope has to be the opposite, as in opposite sign, and reciprocal, two things. So opposite of that would be negative. Opposite, as in the reciprocal for flipping it over, would be 5 thirds. So I'm looking for a slope of negative 5 thirds. Okay? So looking at my answer choices, C has positive 5 thirds, not going to work. D has 3/5, definitely not going to work. Okay, so I've got my two graphs here. Again, I'm looking for negative 5 thirds. They're both negative, I can tell, because they're going down. But I'm looking for the 5 thirds. So let me count from the y-intercept here. Here's the y-intercept. I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1, 2, 3. That's pretty good. Go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1, 2, 3. That's pretty good. I think a B might be it. I'm going to look over here at this one. I'm going to count for my y-intercept. Down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1, 2, 3. No point there. So A's out. So my answer here is B. This is my graph, okay, because I found the original slope to be 3/5. So to get a perpendicular line, I'm looking for negative 5 thirds. Okay. Number 7. The lines described by y equals 5a plus 3 times x and y equals negative 1/2 x are perpendicular. What is the value of a? This seems super duper complicated, but it's actually not so bad. We know that perpendicular means we have opposite reciprocal slopes, right? So if I look at my slope here, then I can clearly see I've got -1/2. If I was to do the opposite, which means to be positive, reciprocal, 1/2 flipped over, I would end up with a positive 2/1, which is really just 2, right? So if this slope is -1/2, this slope has to be 2. Well, we know the slope is whatever's being multiplied by the x, the coefficient. So 5a plus 3 should be 2. Okay, well, we just set up an equation for ourselves. Let's just work backwards and solve. Subtract 3. So 5a equals -1. Divide by 5. So a has to be -1/5. Okay, a couple more. Write the equation of a line passing through the point 2, 4 that is parallel to the x-axis. Number 9, write the equation passing through that's perpendicular to the x-axis. 10, parallel to the y. 11, perpendicular to the x. I think that these should be quick to most of you, super duper slow to a small portion of you, and I'm hoping that small portion of you, this will fix it. Before we get started, I'm going to draw my axes and make sure that we're clear on where those are, because if you don't know that, the whole thing's going to be hard. Up and down is the y, side to side is the x, right? Anything that is parallel to the y-axis is going to look like this, right? That would be considered a vux, right? Anything that is perpendicular to the y-axis, side to side, that would be a hoi, right? But it's interesting to note that the hoi there is parallel to the x-axis, right? So you kind of have to read and think about this picture and decide what your answers are. So 8 says, write the equation line passing through the point 2, 4 that is parallel to x. Looking at my picture, x is side to side, right? Here. Parallel to that would be this guy, so it would be a hoi, right? Well, let's just talk about the slope first. If it's a hoi, slope is 0, right? That's what the O in hoi stands for. Equation. Well, that's from the y in hoi, right? This O tells me the slope. This y tells me the equation. Y equals. Okay, well, where do you get the number from? You just look at the point. What is the y in the point? It's the 4. Okay, we're done. Number 9, write the equation line passing through the point 3, 9. That is blah, blah, blah. Perpendicular to the x. Okay, I'm going to focus on that for a second. Again, here's the x, side to side. Perpendicular to that would be the up and down, vux. So we're talking about a vux now. Okay, well, again, u is the slope, so that's undefined. How do I write the equation? That's the x part of this. X equals, and you just write a number. So in this case, looking at my point, 3, 9, x is 3. Because again, every point is x, y. 10, write the equation line passing through the point 6, 12 that is parallel to the y-axis. Okay, so y is this one, it's up and down. Parallel to that would be this guy, running alongside it, vertical, so it's a vux. So again, u, slope, undefined. The equation, you find that with the x here, so x equals, and again, I just go to my point. Which one is the x? It's the 6, so x equals 6. Same thing for this last one. Write the equation line passing through the point -410 that is perpendicular to the y. Well, again, here's the y. So perpendicular to that would be the hoi up here. Slope would be 0 because of the O in hoi. Equation would be y equals, and you just find the y number. So at my point, x, y would be 10. Okay? I think that's all I have. I feel like this video, even though I'm sure you're like, this is plenty long, could have had more examples of problems like the first two, these two right here, because these are the ones that require the most work. But I cannot stress enough this flow chart, okay? You really have to understand this flow chart and making sure you're going through the steps. Start with your slope. Do you need to pull it out of an equation? Do you need to get it off of a graph? Calculate it between 2 points, look at a table. There's a variety of ways you're going to get the slope, but you have to start there. Then you decide, do I have the y-intercept or a random point of the line that I'm trying to create? Okay, so these two first questions, I had y-intercepts given to me here, right? But that was from my original line. It wasn't for the new line I was creating. So I had to use point slope form. Alrighty, hopefully this isn't too bad. The sub should hand you a worksheet for practice. feel free to help each other out, get each other through that. Feel free to text me on Remind if you have any major questions, and hopefully I can help you out there. There are also plenty of questions like this on your review that you already have passed out to you, and the answer key to the review is already on Schoology as well. I think that's it. Remember, your line project is due a week from Thursday, November 17th.